Hello, everyone. It is N Squared Sports. We are not back in person here, but we are in a call, and the NBA. This is the biggest news we've seen in, quite frankly, a long time. The NBA, the season schedule, I guess the rest of the season schedule is released tonight, so we wanted to do some initial reactions to it. Nick, give me your first initial reactions. Let me hear 'em.
Yeah, so as soon as this news came out, I texted Nick. I'm like, we got to make a video as soon as possible. So we got right to it. This is going to be kind of just an overview of what we think, and we'll probably make videos in the next couple days about you know, like detailed reactions of certain teams that we think have easy schedules or hard schedules. But for an overview, my biggest takeaway was the New Orleans Pelicans and their schedule because it is so easy. Like the NBA has really given them an easy schedule and a really good shot to make the playoffs. Right now, they are 3 games out of the A seed in the West, but their hardest competition really is their first 2 games. They play Utah and the Clippers for the first 2 games, and then their remaining schedule goes Memphis, Sacramento, Washington, San Antonio, Sacramento, and Orlando. So those are all bottom, 6. I think the best team they play in there after their first 2 is I
It's
think an 8
technically
seed.
Orlando.
Yeah, 8 seed Orlando, and then other than that, they play a bunch of teams that are out of the playoffs. So I mean, they just have a really easy schedule. They might lose their first 2 games, but I think they can easily go 6-2 in this stretch and get into the playoffs because also Memphis has a pretty tough schedule. So the NBA, I think, really is kind of pushing for the Pelicans to get in. I still have hope for the Grizzlies to get in. I think they're good enough to beat some of these teams, but it's going to be close because Grizzlies have a 3-game lead, so they're going to have to play pretty much at that 500 or better level to get in. But I think they can do it. So that was my biggest takeaway.
Um, yeah, I sort of agree. And I think, in addition to your point, the Trailblazers as well got screwed over with a really tough schedule.
Yeah.
I think when it comes down to it, if those got teams can win 2 or 3 games, more like if the if the Grizzlies can win like 2 games, I think they'll be safe. And if the Trailblazers can win at like maybe upset a game or two, win 2 or 3 games, I think it's pretty much solidified that those 3 teams are going to be in that, like, what is it, the eighth and ninth seed have to go against
Yeah,
each other.
the play-in tournament. Yeah, it's the A seed and then anybody 4 games or 4 games back or less.
Yes, and I think honestly, it's just going to be 3 teams that are competing, and I think it's just going to be those 3 teams.
Yeah.
So they're not completely screwed over. I honestly just thought of that as soon as you were talking, so I just thought about that point. Um, I think when you look at the schedule here, I think overall it's all right. Um, it's going to be. I was talking to him, and we're probably going to do a video on this specifically of how critical the middle of the Western Conference is. We have pretty much it's the Lakers and the Clippers are the 1 and 2 seed, and it's unless the Lakers really have something go wrong or Lou Williams doesn't play, because that's still a possibility. He said, um, they're going to be the 2 seeds. So let's say that's the case.
Yeah, for the Clippers, yeah.
The Clippers. So then you have the Nuggets, the Rockets, the OKC, and the Jazz. All 4 teams there are competing and within like 2 or 3 games of each other.
Yeah.
I don't know the specific games of each other, but they're
easy. The Rockets, the 6 seed, are tied with the Thunder, and both of those teams are 2.5 games back of the Nuggets, so really close.
Yes, and a lot of these teams are facing each other. So like,
Yeah.
It's not I need him to lose 4 games. It's I'm gonna have to go beat that team, and I'm gonna have to win against that team. And I think we're gonna see a lot of this, and I think it's gonna be really intense between those. Yeah, it's very interesting to see, and I think the same could be said about the East, the Eastern Conference as well.
Yeah.
But it's not as intense. I think people see the East and people think Bucks And the Celtics are in there as well. I'm not discounting them. I think they actually have a great shot. That's really the main thing that hits me.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this, because we'll probably make a video on this, but it really is the most interesting storyline and the story aspect, I think, to it is the Western Conference and those 4 teams with possibly the Mavs, depending on how well they can come out of the gate. Because Luka's not healthy, so let me just throw that out there. But we see these teams. We have the Nuggets, which we confirmed that Nick Jokic had corona. He lost all that weight. He's going to have a different play style, adjustment to the game. They have, let's say, their team really does need, and they do like that, the bigger man and that home field advantage. How is their levels of endurance going to be? They're a bigger team. Can they run the court really well? Then you have the Jazz, which apparently is having some, clashing. We saw that with Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert. Like, maybe it's done. Maybe I'm just being a stereotypical sports, analyst of trying to make a story line out of nothing. How is that team's chemistry going to be? And yeah, like that. And then you have the Rockets, which technically they're still new to the small ball game. That's a completely new case there. And then OKC. I mean, honestly, OKC is probably the most this is their identity of a team. And that's the most uncertainty, but I still don't like them against those 3 teams. What is your thoughts between all 4 of those?
Yeah, so I have a lot to say after everything you just said. A lot of things came to my mind. The first team, hold on. I have to cut this out. Somebody else is calling me. Sorry. I gotta go into it. So the first thing I wanted to say really quick, I'll talk a lot about the West, but I want to say something about the East really fast. That you said basically the Bucks and the Celtics are the main 2, but let's not forget the Raptors are 3 games above the Celtics right now. So the Celtics do they have an easy schedule? I can't remember. They have a pretty easy schedule for the most part, but the Raptors also are 3 games above them. So if the Celtics want to get up to that 2 seed, it's going to take a pretty good 8-game stretch for them to do that. Because if not, the Raptors can pretty easily stay in that 2 seed. But that's all I'll say about the East. I just thought that was an interesting point. About the West, the big thing I saw was the Rockets actually. So you have the Rockets, Thunder, Jazz, Nuggets, basically, are the teams that are fighting for seeding. Because the Clippers most likely will hang on to the 2 seed. The Rockets actually don't play any of the teams above them other than the Clippers and the Lakers. They don't play the Nuggets, Jazz, or Thunder in this 8-game stretch, so they won't have to deal with any of those teams. They do play Dallas, which is a game below them, and they play the Lakers, but they actually don't play the Clippers either. So they play the Mavericks, who are 3 games below them, and they play the Lakers, who already have the number 1 seed. So it's kind of interesting to me. If the Rockets can really gel and make things work, they can really move up because they don't have to play any of the competition above them. They can play other teams and get ahead. So I think that's a big point. If the Rockets can, play well, like they kind of ended on a bad note to end before the coronavirus hit. But if they can get back to the way they played at the start of small ball, I really think they have a good shot to rise up and be a 3 or 4 seed. What you said about the Nuggets, I liked because of Nikola Jokic. He lost weight, and he also had coronavirus, so he probably lost even more weight with that.
And that's technically it's a lung infection. Yeah. So that is going to impact your stamina.
Mm-hmm. That's true. I like their depth on their team, but I agree they don't have home court advantage anymore. So there's a lot of things that are kind of going against them here, and they have to play the teams that I'm looking at. They play a good amount of teams that play pretty fast paced and are pretty talented. Like they play Miami, who's a really good shooting team, and they're pretty long. They have good defenders. They play OKC, who's an underrated team. They play the Spurs, who are always coached well. They play Portland with the Damian Lillard and CJ McCollum in the backcourt. They play Utah, who's usually a good defensive team. They play the Lakers and Clippers back to back, I must say, and they play Toronto, who's a really good defensive team. So they play a lot of teams that are really pretty solid at something. Like even if they don't play the most talented teams part of the time, like they play Miami, OKC, San Antonio are not the most talented teams, but they play also Portland, Utah, the Lakers, Clippers, and Toronto, which are all really good teams. And that's all at the end of their schedule, like the last 4 games. So they could really slide, I have a feeling, especially if Jokic is not what he was. So the Nuggets are a team that I think might fall off a little bit. What else was I going to say? Yeah, that's pretty much what I have to say about the West, about those 4 teams. I think the Nuggets will be the biggest faller. I think they might fall to the 6th seed maybe. And I think the Rockets could move up to the 3 or 4 seed. So, yeah.
I'd agree with that. And I'll sort of add this. I think that sort of to your point is I think the Nuggets are the biggest faller in this. I could see the Jazz as well. And on the East, I definitely see the Raptors. I'm not a fan of the Raptors. I just don't trust them. I can make a case for them. I don't really like them, to be honest. I know that the 2 seed, to me, I'll take the Celtics and negate a series. And I'd say they'd win in 5, to be honest. Like, I'm just not a fan of the Raptors. To me, the Celtics benefit the most from this. They have a pretty easy schedule from what I believe I told you.
Yeah, they were pretty middle of the road schedule to me. Not too hard, but not easy either. So.
But I sort of do believe the Rockets are the most. They're the team that can rise the most.
I believe that, yeah.
And I know we are biased when we say that.
Yeah.
But at the same time, they play the most. I don't want to say simplistic style of basketball, but at the same time, it is probably more easier to pick up, and they already have a lot of chemistry with each other. And Harden is going to be Harden. Westbrook is now he's rejuvenated. He has his energy. PJ Tucker, who's been playing 39 minutes a game, God bless him, is now healthy. He's now completely rejuvenated. We now have Eric Gordon, who's back completely healthy. You have a bunch of other players who are back healthy and who have been worn out to death. Now this team is completely healthy and got a break that they've never had before. I could see the case of them starting off slow, which is what they usually do in the regular season.
Mm-hmm.
And that scares me a little bit because it does take a second for them to really get going. But I do believe that by the end, I think they're going to be clicking on full cylinders, and it's going to be a team you better watch out for.
Yeah, and I think one last point I'll make about them, I could see them struggling at the beginning because they played Dallas, Milwaukee, Portland, and the Lakers. I could see them losing 2 or 3 of those games, but they end with Sacramento, San Antonio, Indiana, and Philadelphia, which they're decent teams, but they're nobody like the Clippers or Lakers. So they have a tough 4-game beginning, but they might struggle, but they have a pretty decent 4-game ending schedule to end it, and they probably will catch their stride by then, and I think could win those last 4 games and maybe go 6-2 or 5-3 in this 8 games, and that could really bode well for them. So.
Yeah. So thank you for watching this video. I think we're going to try to do a little bit more, talk about more specifics and what we think. So make sure you check those out. It's exciting times, and thank you all for watching. Bye.